volatility can be viewed as a feature or a bug. If I give you $1 billion on your balance sheet and you have it in bonds, the vol is 5. It's like putting $1 billion weight in your backyard is not going anywhere. It's sculpture. But if I fashion that sculpture into a flywheel and I spin it at 60 RPM or 60 vol, it's now a turbine. And you can imagine if you're spinning a very heavy, a 10-ton weight at 60 RPM, you can plug a machine into it. You can actually power, a factory or power a company or power a city with it. And so volatility is energy. And with MicroStrategy, we actually run the company to create the volatility. So we have $45 billion of Bitcoin and we're spending at 90 vol. Then we get a $100 billion options market that forms, and the result is it creates so much suction, so much energy. There are people that own my stock that don't know what we do, that don't know what Bitcoin is, that don't care. All they care about is I can sell the volatility. I bought the MicroStrategy thing. I'm getting 150% interest on it, whatever it is. If it doesn't go to zero in the next 3 months, I'm getting rich.
What if I told you that owning just 0.05 Bitcoin, a tiny fraction of a single Bitcoin, could set you up for life? No, this isn't some wild crypto fantasy. According to Micheal Saylor, one of the most influential Bitcoin advocates of our time, this small investment could be your gateway to financial freedom. Think about it. Bitcoin's supply is capped at just 21 million coins. That's it. No more can ever be created. Combine this with surging global demand from institutions, governments, and everyday investors, and you've got a recipe for a once-in-a-lifetime financial opportunity. Saylor isn't just making predictions. He's laying out a roadmap for wealth that anyone can follow, no matter where you're starting. In this video, we'll dig into Micheal Saylor's 2025 Bitcoin price forecast, a number so shocking it's bound to grab your attention. And we'll explore how Bitcoin's next big moves could change your life forever. But before we dive in, take a moment to support this channel. Hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Your engagement helps us create more content that empowers you to take charge of your financial future. Plus, it helps us spread the word about Bitcoin's game-changing potential to more people around the globe. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
That's the power, but that's not unlike I spin a fan 60 RPM and I blow you off the deck, of the ship, right? There's energy in these things. It's a turbine. So I think volatility can be harnessed. I would say if you're an investor, the right way for you to look at it is it's for long-term capital preservation. So if you have a portfolio of capital you don't need for 4 years, or more like ideally for 10 years, then the portion of your capital that you would hold for 10 years and invest, you put some of that into Bitcoin, you'll be fine. I don't think you should put capital you need for 4 days, 4 weeks, or 4 months. You shouldn't use, it's not a working capital thing. It'll give you a coronary and a heart attack. That doesn't make sense. But my last, I got 2 other points. One is it's volatile because it's the most useful thing in the world. It's because if you need $10 billion of credit on Saturday night to short the market, you can get it from the Bitcoin network. You can't get it from any of your other assets. If you needed to sell something for $1 billion in 5 minutes, you can get it from Bitcoin. You cannot sell anything else on a Sunday morning in 5 minutes. If, on the other hand, you wanted to take a long position on Sunday morning after someone else took a short position Saturday night, you can do that with Bitcoin. You cannot do that with nearly any other asset. So it is useful financially, and that makes it volatile because anybody can express an economic opinion as hard as they want anywhere in the world, and everything is linked to everything. And my last point, it's going up 60% a year for the past 8 years. If it was going up 60% a year in a perfect exponential with a beautiful curve that you drew with your artist hand, if that's the way it happened, then people stupider than you, richer than you, would have all the money, right? if I'm telling you it's going up 60%, and if you do the work and you can understand why thermodynamically it is, like, why is the water flowing downhill? Why does the waterfall look that way? Because there's gravity, and the gravity is pulling it downhill. Why are people running from insecure assets to secure assets? Why does capital flow from one place to another place? Why would you sell your Venezuelan currency and buy dollars? Was that random, or is there a reason, right? If you understand the fundamental thermodynamic, physical reason why the capital is flowing from 20th century assets to 21st century assets, from physical to digital, from financial to digital, if you understand that, then the best thing that could happen to you is for it to appreciate in a volatile fashion, because everybody else will be scared away from it. The 60% a year is still 60%, whether it's volatile or not. The difference is, because it's volatile, MicroStrategy is able to go from $1 billion market cap to a $100 billion market cap because people are afraid to do what we're doing. If it wasn't volatile, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger would have bought it all, and I wouldn't be sitting on stage today right now. You would be listening to masters of the universe that were famous long before I came along, telling you how they bought the Bitcoin and how smart they are. And you would be like, well, of course we all bought the Bitcoin, because if it just goes up perfectly forever, then, like, where's the opportunity in it for the committed, right? For the convicted, for the people that want to do the work. I think that there's a new idea. The new idea is adopt a different capital asset called Bitcoin, and you get to keep the money. And now capital is not toxic. Now capital is life-affirming. Now, instead of blowing away $100 billion of capital, now you could keep the $100 billion of capital, and it grows 30, 40% a year, and pretty soon you've got $500 billion of capital, and your shareholders get rich. That's the big idea.
You made this pitch to Microsoft, speaking of, a couple of months ago. Microsoft turned around and said to shareholders, vote this down. Shareholders did vote this down. So what does it take to get some of these other big companies with big balance sheets and a lot of cash sitting there that are doing this, that are handing their capital away, to get on board with what you're pitching?
Bitcoin is on a need-to-know basis. If you don't need to know, then you won't ever figure it out. So Microsoft is arguably right. Microsoft is one of the 7 greatest companies in the world. Maybe it's the greatest company in the world, but some people might think it's the first or the second or the third. So if you run the greatest company in the world and you're a shareholder in the greatest company in the world, arguably you don't need to know anything. You don't need to take any risk. The companies that are going to embrace Bitcoin are the ones that aren't Microsoft. When you get to the point where you realize you can't compete against Microsoft, when you're not the digital monopoly, when you're one of the 27,000 retailers that got crushed underfoot by Amazon, right? When you're one of the 47,000 media companies getting beat to death by Google or by Meta, when you look at your stock and it's been stuck in a rut for a decade, right? If you're the CEO or the CFO of that company and you ask yourself honestly, am I going to be able to outperform NVIDIA or outperform Google or outperform Apple? Do I have a monopoly on 1 billion people? Do I or not? If you have a monopoly, you're getting regulated. If you have a digital monopoly that's unregulated, you can actually outperform until you get regulated. The companies that are embracing Bitcoin are the ones that they're the zombie companies where there's like, I'm public, but I'm stuck in a rut. The likelihood that I'm going to start to grow organically 20% every year for the next decade is like less than 1%, right? Once you get to the point where your odds of actually growing organically 20% a year for the next 10 years are less than 1%, then then at least at that point you need to invite or consider a new idea. And I think normally what happens is when a company hits that wall, they decide to sell themselves, right? That's one exit. I just sell the company. I had 100 competitors, Morgan. Every one of them sold themselves over the course of 20 years. Every one. So you sell yourself, If you can't sell yourself, your next idea is LBO. I'm going to take myself private. I'm going to basically, here's the big idea. I have a low growth company growing 5%, but if I can borrow money, cheap capital, and lever up, then I can actually make my low growth company look like a high growth equity. Who does that? Apple's been doing that for 5 years, right? Borrow money, buy the stock back, lever up the equity. So sometimes they go and do an LBO. Third, they work themselves to death until they have a heart attack, in frustration. I mean, like, I think I tried 25 different things to break out of a rut before I discovered Bitcoin. I bought the stock back, I spent money on marketing, I invented 20 products, and it's just like hitting your head against the wall. So sometimes they do that and they just give up and they retire in dejection. And now you've got this fourth idea: adopt digital capital, right? Recapitalize your company, invert your balance sheet, right? That's the new opportunity. I think in the history, Bitcoin's a paradigm shift, and if you study paradigm shifts, Thomas Kuhn, he says people only embrace new paradigms when there's a war, right, or when they die, right? Like science advances one funeral at a time, right? One of the famous quotes. It's like, so in this particular case, who gets crypto? Who gets Bitcoin? The 20-somethings. 20-something person, a 20-something business person, they have no money, they have no hope, they're not going to get ahead the way their father or their grandparents did, right? And so you're a teenager, or a 20-something, or a 30-something, you're like streaming, YouTube, crypto, something. They have everything to gain, nothing to lose. And then you have people that are caught up in a war, whether it's the COVID war or the lockdown, or guess what? My bank just stole all my money in Lebanon, or a meltdown. Those are the companies that will flip first. The vote, by the way, at Microsoft was 99.5%, against 50 basis points in favor of. The proposal was investigate Bitcoin. That was research Bitcoin, and management recommended they wouldn't, and it was 50 basis points voted in favor. And I think it's just demonstrative of the point that, if you've got a great company and happy shareholders, people don't change. But that's okay, right? Because rich, successful people that don't need money don't have any need to reconsider the monetary proposition, right? Bitcoin is money for people that need it. It's not money for people that have too much of it already, or already have a way to get it. So there's a natural selection here, and there's a certain elegance to the entire process by which this idea spreads.
And there you have it, Micheal Saylor's bold vision for Bitcoin in 2025. This digital asset is more than just a currency. It's a revolution reshaping the financial world as we know it. With corporate giants jumping on board, governments rethinking policies, and Bitcoin's unmatched scarcity driving its value, the pieces of this financial transformation are coming together. So, what do you think? Are we on the edge of a Bitcoin explosion? Or is the best still ahead? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you found this video insightful, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. Not only does your support help this channel grow, but it also fuels the conversations that connect and inspire our amazing crypto community. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next video.